You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast. You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Hi, my name is Blake, and I have just a quick note before we get started. Actually, it's more like a recommendation because this podcast is an immersive audio storytelling experience, part fact, part fantasy. It's best that you listen with headphones on, imagination on, and everything else turned off. Welcome to Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast.
A railroad is a changing thing. Changing because it is run by and for people, meeting their demands and expressing their ambitions. Nothing is permanent except progress. New equipment demands new methods. The railroad on which this train once ran no longer exists. The very rails along which it traveled have long since been replaced. The story of finding better ways to build a better railroad.
I was told to watch out for Border Patrol, but I'm far more concerned about stepping on a snake. The seemingly limitless stretch seems to disappear into the mirage of the dry spring landscape. I wouldn't say the California desert is known for its memorable springtime foliage, but it is the end of March 2024. And I am walking through the desert along railroad tracks, so it's my version of spring. As I inch down the discarded line toward my destination, an abandoned double-decker passenger train that somehow turned up, as if out of thin air, near the outskirts of Jacumba Springs. The sun pierces every step I take on the crisscross pathway, made of rusty metal and wet wood. I always feel slightly uncomfortable walking down a train track, because the spacing between each slat of wood never matches my step. And inevitably, I have to quicken and condense my pace a smidge so as not to twist an ankle and match each step to each slat. When I first heard about this little Golden Book Land-esque double-decker passenger train, I could feel my body enter a euphoric state at the mere thought of it. In fact, I felt called to it, and I knew I had to plan a pilgrimage to witness it up close. This one's gonna take planning, I thought. I knew it was going to require a flight and a car and a 4-hour drive from LA into the middle of nowhere with spotty, if any, cell phone service, and a limited number, if any, of humans nearby. None of that really mattered to me, though, because as it turns out, I have two lifelong obsessions: ruins and trains. My dad used to take my brother and me to an active train line near our house in Colorado, where I learned how to crush a penny on the tracks under the weight of the engine and following cars. I was able to later pass this tradition on to my nephew at the same spot. My brother and I also used to go on scavenger hunts in and around the Tucson neighborhood where my grandparents lived, mini odysseys organized by my grandfather, and a mystical treasure map that would guide us to find small hidden tokens stashed in the shadows of cactus trees near Mount Kimball in Arizona. Needless to say, these major impact moments from my childhood activated a full-body excitement when I learned that it was possible for me to take a 2-for-the-price-of-1 kind of expedition to see this exquisitely unusual sight, an abandoned double-decker train in the middle of the desert. Of course I had to go. As fate would have it, just over a year later, I was called to LA for an awards ceremony, and I thought, well, I'm already going to be there. And I planned an extended trip to ensure that I could get to this abandoned oasis in the middle of the desert. And I did. As I inch closer to the 6-car train, discarded and forgotten about for some unknown reason, I think about the penny crushings and treasure hunts. It makes me wonder if they're responsible for the elation I feel in this moment of adventure. Ever since I can remember, I've called wanderlust a friend, so it could just be that. Or it could be one of the reasons why I get the same feeling inside abandoned spaces that I got on train tracks and in the desert when I was a kid. In those spaces, I could invent entire imaginary worlds and find sanctuary in the protection they provided. I round the bend of a tall embankment made of rock and dust, where I first lay eyes on the graffiti-stricken beauty. It was no small feat to get here, nearly an hour-long walk without any signs of human life, except the distant sound of the interstate. But my heart stops at the sight of it. 6 cars, back to back, 2 levels each, surrounded on either side by desert stone and sky. As my pace and my heartbeat quicken, I start to hum American Train, a song that my Macabre Americana bandmates and I wrote when we first started making music, before beautiful babies and a wretched pandemic limited our jam time together.
These tracks built by men came on boats to come again. So strong are these hands, so inert they do the
To that hope of all our efforts, which is the modern railroad, which is one of the greatest resources of our nation. Working together, we move passengers and freight over the 13,000 miles, fulfilling a function vital to the health and prosperity of the nation.
American train on starting line. American train, American.
I climb into the first car, a relic of America's economic past. I think about the number of people who have walked these cabins, both when it was active and after it was abandoned. I also wonder about how it got here, and why.
Clickety-clack, clickety-clack, look what's coming down the track.
Just like that.
Years of fun for everyone with the American Flyer all.
When you wake up sometimes at night when you're on the train and you look outside and you see stars, you hear the clickety-clack of the train, you know you're going somewhere special and you're not in any hurry to get there.
I learned later that this was a Metrarail CalTrain Bilevel passenger car. I read in the comments on a Reddit post that the trains were supposedly built this way to hold more passengers and employ fewer ticket takers. The upstairs galleries are lined with single seats and a narrow passageway along each side. Minus the boundless graffiti left behind and missing wire lifted by scrap keepers, it's still in fairly good shape. I admire the narrow, twisted stairways up to the second level of each car. I listen to the ghostly announcements from my new imaginary friend, a train conductor named Barry.
Tickets, please. Thank you very much.
Barry has a mustache. Without it, he'd look vaguely like Gregory Peck, but shorter. I think I have a crush on him, but since we've stepped back in time to the mid-1970s, I avoid eye contact at all
Tickets,
costs.
please. Where are you headed, kid?
Hey, I'm going to Bakersfield.
I lie.
Yeah.
Barry looks up at me and down slowly, then tears a ticket stub and sticks it in a small metal clip on the front seat in front of me.
I like your shirt.
Thank you. Thanks.
See you around.
And then Barry winks at me as he moves along to collect the next passenger's ticket. I can hear Patricia Hitchcock's character in Psycho say, "He was flirting with you. I guess he must have noticed my wedding ring." I might have been wrong about Barry.
In a society where rights are lost, the government takes the form of a totalitarian state, and the individual is swallowed up. There is no freedom. The state controls jobs, wages, unions, business, property, and thought.
I stare out the window and I think about America. Our desire for individual liberty trumping our protection of the planet in an ever-evolving age of progress. And progress to what end? I fall deep under the spell of the desert glow. It's so quiet. The silence swarms me and holds me as I dream about time travel, back to the 1960s when train stations all over the country began to shut down, leaving a wasteland of abandoned places across the United States. In the small town where I live in the Hudson Valley, the train station shut down after the MTA stopped running passenger trains on the west side of the Hudson River. That train depot was left to rot before it was restored as a single-family home. I hop off the train and head up an embankment to see the full scope of the 6 cars in all their glory. I imagine it through the decades, whatever those were, the waves and flocks of people who used to ride it, maybe between San Diego and Phoenix, on their way to Dallas, to Baton Rouge, to Atlanta, and all the way down into the Panhandle to the beaches of the Florida coast that peer off into the Atlantic, towards Cuba. According to abandonnedrails.com, as of March 2021, there were over 1,700 concentrated abandonments, each one containing miles and miles of track from end to end, thousands and thousands of rails gone to waste. A substantial portion of those lines were abandoned between 1965 and 2005. American train tracks are a roadmap into our past, tracing a thin line of economic prosperity that fell into ruin and never fully recovered. I think about the greed of the airline industry, their bailouts, and how much I wish our country could bring back train travel into style. If we didn't have to be so independent about everything, maybe our collective sense of community would be in better shape. A daydream, to be sure. I come to, sitting in the dismembered seat that's been tossed out of the train, laid to rest at the side entrance of the 3rd car. I look up at the sun and listen for the soft sound of the desert to console me. I pretend it's still 1972, and I'm holding a transistor battery-powered radio, and that my favorite rock song just came on. It's called American Train. I hold it up to the sky as I turn up the volume and let the warmth of the desert afternoon swallow me.
American train always comes in black. American train, American.
If you're just tuning in, welcome to the 3rd season of Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast. Join me every other week as I take you on an immersive sonic journey, recounting my expeditions of abandoned spaces across the United States, which I transform into fantastical audio experiences that allow you, dear listener, to dive into my imagination with me, or maybe inspire you to go out and use your own. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. It really does help this podcast fall on more ears, I promise. Also, if you like to read or enjoy amateur photography, just know that each episode this season is adapted from the original All-American Ruins blog, where you can catch up on more of my adventures. Just visit allamericanruins.com or follow me on Instagram @allamericanruins. Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast is hosted, written, edited, and produced by me, Blake Pfeil, with studio space courtesy of Radio Kingston, WKNY, AM 1490, FM 1079 in Kingston, New York. Also, a huge shout out to my big brother Ryan, who provided very valuable feedback on every script for every episode this season. Thank you, my friend, for taking the time to explore these abandoned spaces with me.